Welcome back. Today is day 10 of the Soul Movement Challenge. After today, we will be officially 1/3 of the way done with the challenge. So in honor of that checkpoint, we are going to be doing a restorative session today. So going a little lower intensity, not doing things that are going to demand a ton of you. It's really just keeping the movement consistent and allowing you a little bit of a recovery day. So let's go ahead and come on down to the ground. We're going to be doing most everything on the ground today. So you got that to look forward to. We are going to start out getting into a knee hand position. So starting just like so, and just starting out with a forward and backward rock. So again, really, really mellow on the front end and just allowing for the body to ease into some movement for today. And as you're going here, you can play around a little bit with where your heels are in relation to your butt. See if you can get your heels to be directly underneath you. And then if you want to play around with also allowing the heels to kick out so that your butt doesn't touch your heels, you can play with both of those, just kind of see how that feels. For most people, they naturally want their heels to come out. So I would encourage you to try to work the opposite where your heels are staying underneath you. All right, so we're going to stay in the same kind of position. And now we're going to take it into more of a yogic cat-cow position. So we're going to be flexing the spine and then extending the spine. Doesn't have to be crazy intense here. We're just trying to mellow into the movement. A little bit of flexion and a little bit of extension. And you might find that you've got some wiggles. You want to wiggle your body a little bit more. Perfectly fine to do that. You'll also see me kind of taking it into, got some different terminology here, but into a little bit of like lateral flexion with the movement. And feel free to kind of explore that a little bit. So if you want to allow for that flex to not just happen up and down, but also to happen a little bit laterally, it's a nice way of just kind of like waking everything up. So again, flexion and extension, flexion and extension. All right, so we're still on the ground, but we're going to go back to a seated position. And on this one, we're going to lean back into the hands and we're going to allow the knees to come up and over. And you can kind of use your hands as much as you need to on this movement, but we are going to try to keep the feet dorsiflexed. So as you can see, my toes are pointed more up towards the ceiling. This is just going to allow for your hips to have to do a little bit more work. Again, pretty mellow, lean back as much as you need to. Just trying to stay in a more restorative position. So we're going to add to this movement. We're going to keep going with this little swivel, but now we're going to rotate around. So I'm going to kind of point my chest around, reaching one arm. So just like so, and then I'm going to swivel to the other side and then do that on the other side. So if you're looking at me from a slightly better angle, this position, I am reaching and then I'm swiveling and reaching. And I'm just going to go back and forth like that. It's not like a great angle to show you this from, so I'm going to try to move around a little bit so you can see some different positions, different angles. Feel free to explore these angles a little bit too. So if you want to go down a little bit more, or if you want to go up a little bit more, it can create a little bit of a slightly more curious approach to the movement. All right, so we're still on the ground here. We're going to take it into toes pointed, and we're just going to be lifting the hips and lowering the hips. And we'll stay on one side, but again, try to keep the toes pointed. For some of you, this might actually make the feet cramp really easily, so you might have to kind of like massage the feet out in between reps, but just going up and down. And at this point, you've already gotten to play with this position a little bit, so you should kind of have a sense of where your capability lies in terms of how difficult this feels for you. Feel free to readjust if you end up needing to hold on to something, kind of pull your way up, or even if you want to walk your hands out and then come back up. Again, we're trying to stay in a more restorative mindset for today, so I'm definitely not trying to make it super challenging for you. All right, now we're going to go ahead and switch to the other side. So keeping the toes pointed, just lifting and lowering. And this can be a good practice for your overall posture. It's really easy as you're moving in and out of these positions to end up just kind of letting your spine do whatever it wants to. And the intention here is that you're trying to reinforce, you kind of imagine an invisible string kind of pulling you upward. And that's where you want to be kind of throughout the movement. There's a lot of grace here because we want to be curious still. We want to play with positions, but in a general context, the string pulling your spine up can be a really nice way to just put some intention towards your alignment. Nice. We're going to do one more. And then after you come down on this one, we will stay on the ground and go into a very familiar movement pattern, but a slightly different version. So we're going to step one leg out. We've done that part, but today we're going to be going into a little bit of a forward reach here. So I'm going to bring it back and then back out. I'm going to stay on the same side and then reach. So setting it down, bring it out, reach, and you can hang out here for a second or two if you want to. It's definitely a good position to allow the hips to get into that deep range of motion. You can also notice that my shoulders are rotated a little bit. I'm leading with the same arm as the leg that's out. And this back foot is, you can probably tell, is angled a little bit. This just allows you to be able to get a little deeper into the movement. Let's get one more here. Stepping it out, reaching. All right, and then go ahead and put that knee underneath you. You can kind of reposition as much as you need to here. And then we're going to step out with the other leg. So now I'm reaching. My right leg is out, my right arm is out. And again, I'm trying to show you from a little bit different angle. So if you can't see me super well here, hopefully you already got it pretty well dialed in on the other side. And I'll try to move around a little bit too as I go, so you can see some different angles. You may have already played with it, this back foot. You can definitely do this from a flex position, or, well, excuse me, from a dorsiflex position or from a plantar flex position, but you do want to try to get to where you can do both. So if you kind of favor one or the other, just play around with the other and see how that feels. And some of that depends a lot off the ground too. If you're just on a yoga mat and you've got like a, a hard floor underneath you, it may be a little bit better for your knee to be slightly more, flexed in one way or the other. We're going to come back to a seated position. So just like so. So I'm sitting on my heels here, and then I'm going to take it up to this extended position and then back down to a seated position. And this is one, again, where your feet might start to cramp up a little bit. Feel free to massage them out a little bit so they don't get super, super crampy. And then driving it back open again, driving it back down. Try to have some good control throughout. Open, back down. And if you can't feel it, when you get to this tall position, really think about flexing your glutes so that your low back is not extending you, but your hips are extending you, or sorry, your glutes are extending your hips rather. Nice. All right, you can rest. And then we're going to flip it around so that you're on your back. Like I said, still on the ground, still going pretty mellow here. We're going to bring the feet flat. This is going to be a very mild version of a glute bridge. And on this one, you can kind of let your head, you can let everything relax. We're just going to drive the hips up as high as you can get them and then back down. And this is not max effort, by the way. This is just what kind of a natural limitation for the hips. So don't try and fight for more extension. Just go as high as you can go without you having to like strain to get further. And each time you do the reps, you might have to bring your heels a little closer to your butt just so that you can kind of reposition, make it to where you've got good drive from the glutes. Nice. Okay, rest. We're going to come back up to a seated position, this time a slightly different kind of seated position. We're going to go out long with the legs. We're going to go back to kind of a similar position to what you were doing before with these swivels, where the knees are kind of going from side to side. So this time we're going to be extending the legs out. Now you can still use your hands here, but we're going to extend the legs out and then we're going to bring them back in. So keeping that in mind, your hands can be down, but try to keep your knees kind of glued to the ground. So your goal is to not do this, but to do this. So I'm trying to keep the knees pretty close to the ground as I swivel it out and as I swivel it in. And as you're doing this, you also want to fight for this open position here. Now, it may or may not be crazy big. It might be this, or it might be a lot wider than what I can do, but you do want to try to open the hips up as much as you can in the in-between space. And you might find that as you do more reps, it just naturally wants to open a bit more. Nice, we'll go one more rep. Excellent. Okay, you can rest. And then we're going to take it up to standing now. So get up however you want to. Still staying pretty mellow with all the movements we're doing today, but we are going to go back to one that we have done a couple of times now. We're going to get that spin going, and we're going to get those arms just sloshing. Sink into your stance a little bit and allow the arms to just be dead weight that you're spinning around. Good, keep going, you're doing great. Again, just real mellow, just waking everything up, just getting some nice movement for the body. Also another lesson in the fact that not all movement has to be crazy intense. All right, so we're going to be going up with one arm and back with the opposite leg. So my left arm is up, my right leg is back, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do the opposite. And I'm just going to go back and forth like that, kind of stretching the shoulders out as I step back. So again, I'm here and I'm here. And then as it feels comfortable, we'll kind of take it to where it feels a little bit more fluid. But for the most part, just stepping back, reaching the opposite arm up. Again, still on the mellow end. We'll get into some more advanced movements. Probably about day 20 that we'll get into like some really tricky movements. But for now, we're still in that phase of just building consistency. Let it happen organically. Nice. Okay, you can rest. And then we're going to still stay pretty mellow on this next one, but it is going to be a little bit, just a very small amount more difficult than what you just did. So we're going to be taking it down into a deep knee bend, just like this. You can go down however you need to, but your goal is to try and get down to this position and then get back up. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. I already showed you a few different ones, but today we're going to go to the mellowest version of that movement. So allowing for the body to fold forward a little bit, allowing for the heels to be up, but not be up crazy high. Just a really mellow, I'm gonna get down on the balls of my feet, and then I'm gonna get back up. Again, try to break the mold of what you think of when you think of movement, or you think of like movement within a specific name, and you're just getting down on the balls of the feet, and then you're getting up. Just playing around with that a little bit. And you can chill at the bottom a little bit. And you can see I'm not like perfectly upright. I'm not trying to max effort my feet. I'm just getting down and getting up. It's not always about trying to make it an exercise. Sometimes it's just about getting some movement. All right, nice. Now we're going to get a little bit slightly different kind of movement. We're going to go into some spinal movement with the arms. So this is going to be kind of like a scooping motion, but you're going to allow the back to round. So I'm going to come down and up. I'm going to form an X, open it up. So I'm nice and open at the top of the movement. And then I'm going to come down, form an X, bring it up, open up, down, and just get this flow going. You can notice I'm not going into like a super deep squat, just allowing for a little bit of flexion and then a little bit of extension through both my hips and my back. And it might feel good to let it get bigger, but you don't have to. You can keep it the same size throughout. All right, you can rest. Nice, very nice. Getting to play with some flexion and extension of the spine, which is an awesome one. Now we're gonna go into the shoulders a little bit more. We're gonna come back down to the ground to do that. We've already gotten a lot of different shoulder positions and shoulder movement. Most of you know what your scaps are, but if you don't, I'm referring to your scapula, which are kind of like the shoulder blades themselves. So if you were to place your hand on someone's back, on their upper back, you'll feel that bone that's kind of like right near the shoulder that kind of wings in towards the spine. That is your shoulder blade. And what we're going to do on this next one is allow the shoulder blades to pull in towards each other and then pull the shoulder blades out away from each other. And we're trying to do this with minimal spine movement. So I'm letting the shoulder blades themselves move, but I'm not really allowing for a ton of extension or a ton of flexion in the spine. So often referred to as like a scapular push-up, just allowing for those scaps to move. A lot of us get in sticky positions where the scaps kind of get stuck in certain positions for long periods of time. It's a nice way of kind of massaging that so it doesn't get stuck, but it might feel sticky at first. All right, you can rest. And then we're going to go into being on the ground, kind of fully in a seated position here. And we're going to bring the hands together and we're going to go into some wrist circles. So keeping the hands clasped and just getting some wrist rolls. Trying to get as much range of motion. Keep in mind, you're trying to create flexion for both wrists and extension for both wrists. And then go the other way if you haven't already. And again, try to articulate. It gets really easy to want to just rush through this. Try to articulate as much as you possibly can with your wrists and try to keep the elbows close together. So everybody kind of wants to do this because it feels more comfortable, but bringing it in is going to allow for those scaps that we were just doing, just moving to move a little bit further. Okay. Now we're going to take the interlock and switch. So your opposite thumb and your opposite finger set up. And then we're going to go again for kind of a forward wrist roll. And then going backwards. Remember, try to articulate as much as you can. Nice. All right, you rest. And then we're going to come back to another kind of glute bridge. So we're going to be on the back again. We're going to try to post onto one shoulder so your head won't be on the ground for this, but we're only going to do like a half a second per side. So it's not going to be a very like long period of time that you're posting. I'm going to drive my hips up, post to one shoulder, and then touch kind of over my shoulder on the opposite side. And then I'll show you this. I'm trying to think of the best way to show you this. I'll show you the other side. I'm not going to do this every time, but driving up, reaching over the shoulder, and then I'm going the opposite way now. Try to let your head rotate so that you can see where you're touching, and let your hips drop each time so you can get a good hip drive. Let's get a few more reps here. You can probably see I'm kind of moving a little bit down the room. It's pretty normal. All right, you can go ahead and come up out of that. If you want to get a few more reps, if that feels good. Same applies to pretty much all of these movements. If you ever get into a position and it just feels really good and you want to get more reps, don't let me stop you. Just keep on going. The biggest part of this practice is for you to feel good in your body, to feel the movement and to enjoy the movement. So again, it's kind of getting out of that exercise mindset of, a form of punishment for the body or something that you're supposed to do or something that you should do, and allowing you to actually enjoy what you're doing and be something that you want to do. So appreciate you showing up today. Like I said, it was a more restorative session. Tomorrow we'll get back into some slightly more difficult stuff. I'll see you tomorrow for day 11.